It's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call, this meeting's called to order, 6 o'clock. Please stay seated for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Wright, we are being broadcast live on YouTube and Channel 12. Clerk Wright, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Boyden.
Trustee Boynton.
Sorry, yep.
Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Frazier.
Here.
Treasury Bud.
Here.
The clerk is present. Supervisor McNair.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a motion to, first of all, we'll go through the executive summary for the adoption of the agenda. We have a usual prepaid list and closed session. During the presentation time, we're going to have a presentation by the DDA regarding Harris Park and its role in Black History Month. We will then go on to do a littering ordinance, some IT services. I'm sorry. And the last thing is we're going to have a discussion only with no vote on how we would like to.
You froze up. Kevin, you're frozen.
He probably can't hear you, Reggie.
Frozen in time.
Can't hear you, Leon.
You're
Can't hear you, Leon.
Leon, put your mic on. There you
I
go.
say the connection at the township is terrible. The Wi-Fi connection.
Right, mute.
Kevin, you were frozen there for a while.
He's still frozen, ain't he?
There we go.
There
We're
you-
back.
You're back.
You're back.
Back.
Okay. All right, so we have a very short agenda today. Pretty much the biggest thing is going to be a littering ordinance that we're going to be rewriting. And we're going to also have a discussion on how to put together, if we want to put together, and how to put together a proposal to the people of Haggerty Sub regarding fixing their sidewalks and what that would be as a cost to them. But that'll be something we're going to discuss today. That's it. Moving forward, moving to the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Report.
Got a motion, but I've got support. All in favor?
I
I'm sorry.
got a roll call.
Roll call everything. Okay.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Frazier.
Yes.
Trustee Martin. Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
I said Miller. Trustee Miller.
I already said yes.
You heard an echo somewhere. Trustee Boyden.
Yep.
Treasury Bud.
Yes.
Yes for me. Supervisor.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is the adoption of the consent agenda. Trustee Boynton, would you make the motion and read it?
Okay, I so move that we accept the consent agenda or adopt the consent agenda. Number one, board meeting minutes of February 16, 2021. Closed session minutes of February 16, 2021. Prepaid list of February 18th, 2021. Prepaid list of February 25th, 2021. And the voucher list of March 2nd, 2021.
Support by Bud.
Very good. Bud on support. Okay. There's no discussion usually on this, so Clerk Wright, would you call the roll?
I will. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Boyden.
Yep.
Trustee Frazier.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Kevin.
Trustee Martin is frozen.
You're frozen in time.
Huh.
Just bop your head.
You can't.
His
Thank you.
video
Treasurer Bud.
Yes.
was jerking
That's for
around.
me. Supervisor,
Yes,
I'm pretty sure Martin is yes.
we will take note when he comes back in of his vote.
Motion passes.
It's not going to change anything. All right, moving on. Public hearing, we have none.
Everybody's frozen. What's going on?
I don't know. This is the first time we've had a freeze frame like this. This is why I go to the office, so to do it, because I do have options if I freeze out and where I can go, get internet. Moving on, we have no public hearing. We are now at correspondence, announcements, and presentations. I will make one announcement. Tuesday of tomorrow morning, actually, from 9 to 3:30, Van Buren will be giving out vaccinations at the Wayne County Community College in Taylor on North Line Road. All 1,000 spots have been allocated, and we are taking reservations now for a new allotment that we're just received for Tuesday of next week. We have 900 slots open currently for Tuesday of next week at Wayne County Community College. So just go on our website, click vaccination. It's so easy. Put in your name, address, date of birth, and we will send you back a corresponding email. If you do that in the next day or two, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be in that vaccination program. If you're over 65, you're in. If you're over 65 and your wife wants to, your wife is not, she can also sign up. If you're over 65 and you can't get a ride, whoever gives you a ride can get in for a vaccination. All right. So that's that. I'm going to move on to a presentation by the DDA on Harris Park in conjunction with the Black History Month of 3 days ago. Director Ireland, are you there?
I think so. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Ryan said he was going to share the screen for me.
He's doing
And
that.
this is actually a very short presentation, but I think it might be something that might be a surprise to you. And especially in honor of Black History Month, I think it really is appropriate to share the foresighted dream of creating Harris Park as a memorial and a tribute to preserve the history of the Harris family in Van Buren Township, and most notably Albert Raymond Harris. And he really was a true hero. Okay, you can flip. The Harris family, Albert's mom and dad came to Van Buren Township in 1900, and they bought the residence that's in the surrounding land on Belleville Road, where the park is today. In fact, it's the original house was the real estate office in the front, and they raised 10 children on that property. And one of the things that I think is particularly of interest is that they are one of the first African-American settlers in Van Buren Township. Next. They've been lifelong residents of Van Buren. Albert Harris ended up building a home on part of the homestead where he and his bride, Frances, raised 5 children, Suzanne, Alan, Kathleen, Cindy, and Nancy. And you can see their family. That's all of them in the house that he built. Okay, you can flip one more. Al was a builder, and he was also known for creating and giving away wooden toys to many of the local schools and school children. And when they came to his workshop, he would give tours, and they would get toys when they left there. And as you can see by the pictures, he's got a little kid doing some cement work. He always had time for kids in Van Buren Township. Okay, go ahead, flip. Albert always really believed in public service. And this is really, I think, evidenced by, he was appointed as he was on the first board of directors for the Downtown Development Authority. because obviously he was in the district. He was the recipient of a Ted Kuckelman Award in the community. And I think more notably, he was stationed in Guadalcanal in World War II. He was in the Navy, and he was a part of the 34th Naval Construction Battalion, known as the Seabees. And what was interesting about that was kind of where he began and was instrumental in taking a stand for racial equality. Over 1,000 Black Seabees, they staged a hunger strike from March 2nd to the 3rd in 1945. They refused to eat, but even though they refused to eat, they still continued to perform their duties that they were able to do. So the whole actual hunger strike only lasted 2 days. One more flip. And I just think that it's really important that we thank Mr. Harris and his family for their lifetime commitment to Van Buren Township. And it's sad that he's gone, but it's nice that his children come out here. And there's a whole lot of stuff that we find out as time goes on. So maybe we'll have more down the road.
Jeff, can I call you back on a meeting? Bye.
Okay. Well, Director, thank you very much. Do you have any, does anybody have any comments they'd like to make or questions?
Through the chair.
Yes.
While we're talking about Black History Month and what that meant to us and what he meant to the community and to the service to the township, I would just like to kind of make a comment that this week we also lost another very precious soul that did a lot for the community, and that would have been Kurt Atchison. The work he did on the DDA with Al Harris and the work they did together. It's a tribute to the people that have served this community all these years. So we are sad in his passing, and he leaves, of course, his son and his daughter and grandchildren. Another one is Connie Krebs passed away this past weekend. And maybe most of you don't know who she is, but she was a water service worker in the water and sewer department. And she was our election clerk back in the 80s and early 90s. And she was with the township for quite a while. She left her husband of 60 years and she had 4 children. And so I guess I would say they will be missed. Kurt Atchison and Connie Krebs will be missed by their families. And we send them our prayers and support. Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you.
Trustee Miller?
Susan, are there any Harris family members in the area in BBT?
Not in Van Buren Township, but there's probably the closest one is right next door in Ipsy. And that daughter, she comes frequently to the park and will just sit and it makes them very happy.
Excellent.
They're
Thank
all still, with the exception, I believe the son lives out west somewhere, but the other daughters all live in Michigan.
Oh, wonderful.
Through the chair, sorry to say that Al Harris did lose that son that lived out in California, so he is no longer with us either. So it's just his daughters. But he did all the cement work here at my house. He taught my youngest son. He took him under his wing, and he had him working with him, smoothing out cement and pushing barrels around. And Al used to kid him. He said, "Walk in the cement like I do, and you'll have bended knees like I do." And when he had his knees done, he said to me, he says, "Look at, I am 2 foot taller. I can stand up straight because my knees have been fixed." So, he just was very dear to our family. He worked with my father-in-law, and there's just a lot of happy stories of him coming over and sitting with my father-in-law in the shop and passing their stories back and forth. And, those are just fine people. His wife was a fine people. She worked down in the clinic in Sumter, and she was just another fine person. So, we've got these 3 people that work so hard in the community, and they will be missed.
I love that. Okay.
Through chair.
Yes. Clerk?
I would just like to thank Susan, Director Ireland, for bringing this forth. It's information, history that I wasn't aware of. I was aware of the Harris family through, talking to Susan, who really brought it to my attention. I knew of the place, but I knew it was called the Harris place, but I had no idea it had African American heritage to connected with it. So I'd like to thank you for bringing that forth and sharing it with us and also the community, because I mean, these are the things that need to be done, not only just Black history, all types of history. These all need to be taught to our youth because they don't know. And if we don't teach them, they'll never learn. I'd like to give my condolences to the Atchison family and you said a priest, Sherry?
The Krebs family.
Krebs family.
Mhm.
I don't think I know them. I didn't know them, I don't believe, but in a way, I would like to give my condolences because I truly understand just having to go through that, the issue about a month ago it's nothing easy. So, thank you.
Okay, does anybody else I actually have one other notice to make, and this is I'm not real happy about making it, but I have to be happy for her. I'd like to personally congratulate Jennifer Wright. She is retiring from the township. She has been working for the township since 1997. She started as a seasonal park counselor and became the recreation manager in 2001 and the director in 2011. She's been monumental in helping us build our Parks and Recreation Department, our programs, our events. I just want to thank her for all the hard work that she's done around here, and she's going to be greatly missed. She had such a positive energy about her. All right. At any rate, does anybody else have any other presentations that they'd like to make? No. We're going to move through then. Powering on.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Sir.
Through the chair.
Yes. Kevin Martin.
Real quick. Thank you, Director Ireland, for that presentation. And to reiterate what Clerk Wright said, our history is important that we, continue to embrace our history. He settled in Van Buren Township over 120 years ago. I think that's quite monumental. So I appreciate that presentation. It was very informative. And also give my condolences to the Atchison family and to the Krebs family.
We have. All right, we're moving on now. We're moving on to public comment. Does moderator, is anybody from the public that wishes to make a comment on anything that's business of the day?
We do have one thing in the chat, and then we also have a hand raise. I'll read the chat because that came through first. So non-agenda item, I hope the township invests, and this is from Stephen Dark, D-A-R-K-E. Non-agenda item, I hope the township invests in converting all of its streetlights to LEDs soon. In addition, I'd like to see streetlights embedded to every intersection, especially the ones that aren't lit by traffic signals. There are many streets that are difficult to find in the dark, and it would be also reduce the risk of pedestrians being hit at night. And that is the end of that comment.
Writing it down. Okay. And the other one?
All right, this is Lamar Weir. We are asking you to unmute, and you can go ahead and make your comment.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Lamar Weir from Congresswoman Dingell's office. Thank you for having me. I just had a question about the vaccine distribution, the community one. You said that it was about 900 slots for 900 slots, and this is the one that's shared between Belleville, Van Buren, Huron Township, and I think Sumter Township. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and you should we should all thank Debbie Dingell. She was, we weren't so high on the list. We kind of had some arguments about what was going on, and it was kind of felt a lot like I was, yelling in the wind. And I suddenly had somebody standing behind me saying, yeah, and giving statistics and stuff like that. And it turned around, it was Debbie Dingell. And you get a lot braver when you got a congresswoman standing behind you. It helped a lot. Thank you. Yeah. But we do have this is a collaborative with Huron Township, Sumter, Belleville, and Van Buren Township. We have gone together on this and we are working together on it. On the vaccines. Okay, moving on then. We're down to unfinished business, of which we have none. Item number 1 is discussion on to consider a resolution, approval of resolution 2021-077, which is an agreement between Van Buren Township and Oakland County for IT services. Can I get a motion for approval?
Supervisor, I make a motion for approval on the discussion on and to consider approval of the resolution 2021-07 agreement between the township and Oakland County for IT services.
Thank you.
Support.
Okay. Support, Mr. Martin, Director, Trustee Martin. Okay, Angela Manarino, Chief Wright, are you out there? Are they out there? Because let's say
We are promoting them right now.
Glad they're here.
Hello,
Hello.
I can discuss it, Supervisor, and if there's any legal issues or legal questions, that's why we wanted Angela here, because she helped us with the contract.
Go ahead, please.
Basically, you probably, when you saw this and you saw an agreement with Oakland County for technology services, you probably were scratching your head. And basically what this is the police department and fire department operate with Oakland County Clemis, the report management system that is our CAD system for all the runs we go on. It's the entire records management system for the police department, the fire department, and our dispatch. And we have been with Oakland County Clemis, right, and that's where all our police reports are generated out of, since 2005. In fact, we went live in November of 2005. And basically back then, all the departments that migrated to Oakland County Clemis, it basically made us a regional reporting system. So we are one of about 150 other agencies in Southeast Michigan that utilizes this. And it helps with us sharing documents between each other, at least on the police department side, with our arrests, records, and our case files. We know that criminals don't know, or lawbreakers don't know boundaries. You know, there is no boundaries when that stuff's going on. And so it allows us to share information, which is very beneficial. And with it, it allows us to have a central record system. There was never a written agreement outlining all the things that we've been operating since 2005. So Oakland County Clemis has been making its way around to all the police departments and fire departments that utilize them and making a formalized agreement. This is nothing different than our mobile field force agreement that came before you a month or two ago. It was just formalizing the way we operate. And this is no different. This is just formalizing what Clemis expects from us as their customer and what we expect from them as our vendor for our report management system. And it's just formalizing it. And that's why we wanted to bring it before you, because they're, like I said, they're making their way around to all their members, and they're getting these agreements in place. It protects them and it also protects us.
What does it protect us for?
Well, what it protects us with is they're responsible for our records. So it's basically outlining how they'll keep them, how they protect our records. I mean, for example, Canton Township, they're in Clemis. Well, they can't just have access to our records. They can see that we may have a record on or a report involving a certain individual, but they cannot read the report or look at it. They just get notified that there's a connection here. And so they're able to contact us, and then we make the decision to release information to them. If somebody contacts Clemis and wants to FOIA one of our police reports or fire reports, Clemis can't just give it to them. In this agreement, it says that they will contact us, let us know. We have to make the final decision. They will abide by the law and the court rules, but they have to notify us and we have to grant the permission for them to do it. So that's just one little tiny thing. Technology ever changing. It keeps us in line with getting, all the technology that is involved. There's so much technology involved in Clemis. For example, our photo imaging system for our mugshots, our fingerprint machine, that all of that stuff runs through Clemis. It's all interconnected, and it's pretty much telling them they have to do certain things and we have to do certain things.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I think you did a great job. This is just, we've done this for 10 years and people are more and more wanted in writing, so. So I have a motion for approval and I have support. Clerk, could you call the roll?
Trustee Boyne.
Yep.
Trustee Martin,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Frazier,
Sherry Frazier, your mic is on. Off.
treasurer Bud,
Yes.
yes for me. Supervisor,
Yes.
motion passes.
Sherry, are you back?
Yeah.
Trustee Frazier, unmute yourself.
I see Will in the mirror, so I think he's getting help. Okay. Oh, nodding. Are you okay with that? There you go.
There we go.
All right. Next item is discussion to consider a first reading. It's the first reading of an ordinance. So can I get a motion that somebody read it, which is not much.
Chair, I make that motion.
Oh, okay, trustee Wright? Clerk
Right.
Support.
Wait, let clerk Wright read it. He's got to read this one.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the first and second reading to consider adoption of local litter ordinance 03-02-21 percent page 1.
Thank you. Trustee Boynton, are you down for a second?
Yep.
Okay, just so the public knows that ordinances are really laws. So when you create a law, it gets a little more technical. So, all right, Director Power, could you take this up, please?
He is entering now as a panelist.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
We also have Angela Manarino, who's on the call for the last item, is here to respond to any additional legal questions. I'll follow Clerk Wright, or Chief Wright's lead on that format for my discussion tonight. I can describe the case, and then if there's any legal questions, we can refer to our township attorney. But this is a fairly straightforward ordinance. What we're looking at is the fact that state law under Michigan's Natural Resources Act, which is PA 451 of 1994, prohibits littering, but it is a civil infraction. That law also refers to the fact that municipalities can enable their own local ordinances and laws to prohibit littering from individuals. Currently, Van Buren Township does not have a local ordinance, and that's why we are presenting this tonight. What Van Buren Township does have is a local ordinance that prohibits, it has provisions for cleaning up litter that's left on sites as part of the property maintenance code. But in terms of littering done by individuals, we wanted to also have the authority to enforce on those issues as well. So what this ordinance does is defines litter. It defines public or private property or water. It defines vehicles and vessels. And then what it does is prohibits littering by individuals from in road rights of way and public and private property. And it links the responsibility to the operator of a vehicle, for example, if they're littering from a vehicle. And then it gives us the authority to issue municipal civil infractions rather than state civil infractions. And so we can work it directly through our court system. This is an issue that I think has been recognized in certain areas. We have some littering, for example, by Tyler Road and Belleville Road, where some of the debris maybe from the Meyer parking lot can end up causing issues in our roadways. And so this just gives our police a little bit more control and local authority to write a ticket for individuals who litter. And some other communities also have their own local ordinances for littering, reflecting the same line of thought, that it gives you local control in addition to the state law. And so this is something our police officers can reference and cite based on. And really, it's written very similarly to the state law. It just gives us local authority. So I'm glad to answer any questions about the format of the ordinance.
Okay, so as everybody probably remembers, our first 2 years here, we went through every ordinance we had, and we changed them from county and state-based ordinances to local ordinances. It did two things. It gave us the capability to be kinder and gentler to our locals. It also gave us the capability to have them be represented by Angela Manarino in our local courts rather than going downtown. And the third thing, God knows I like my revenue, I didn't have to split the revenue with the courts downtown or the state. So these tickets are our tickets. It worked. People, I mean, the blight is way down compared to what it was 4 years ago. I was shocked when I discovered that when we went to put up a ordinance for littering, that we had to go through a little bit of a bunch of hoops jumping through because we didn't have a local ordinance. So we're fixing it. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Power, Director, or Angela Manarino, our prosecutor?
Through the chair.
Clerk?
I don't have a question. I would just like to, Director Powell, I'd like to personally thank you for bringing this forward. We have a serious issue with litter in the township, especially along Tyler and Belleville roads. It seems that I think about the 15th every month, someone throws a big bag of garbage out of their window right in front of the Andover Farms drive-in where you come into the subdivision. I can guarantee you every month a big bag of garbage is going to be dumped on the side of the road. I don't know who does it. Hopefully, I hope law enforcement is hearing and they can apprehend this person. And again, Kevin, you know, I've always complained about the litter on the north side of Myers.
From Myers, yeah, the blow off from the
blow off. It needs to be done, and that needs to be taken care of. So I'm happy to hear that you're bringing this ordinance forward. But I would also like to reiterate, the ordinance don't mean nothing without enforcement. So we can have them on the book, but if we're not going to enforce them, we just got them on the book.
Trustee Miller.
Just one quick question. Is there a warning first, or do we just automatically, they write the ticket? Angela?
I think that's, you know, a question of discretion for the police officer, the ordinance officer who's writing the ticket. So that's something they can use their discretion on. The ordinance itself, I don't believe provides for a warning, but that is something that the officers can use in their discretion.
I would have a lot less discretion from Myers right now in that.
Just to comment on that a little bit, Reggie. Myers don't need a warning. They've gotten about.
I agree.
Well, and I will, if I could, just to comment on what Clerk Wright was mentioning, the ordinance does set up, you know, the fine is sort of a sliding scale based on the volume. And so in the situation of something like Meyer, where there's larger amount of litter and trash, there is, you know, the possibility looming of a higher fine. And so that hopefully will kind of, you know, also impact things where if it's a little bit, there's a lesser fine. If it's a lot, there's a larger fine. And so hopefully that will serve to, you know.
And I don't know how everybody else feels, but if our officer catch someone throwing a bag of garbage out the window, I want to see something more than a warning happen myself.
Yeah, but it goes both ways. If someone leave something out, I don't want to see them get a ticket right off.
No, I'm talking about littering on the side of the road, Reggie. I'm talking about leaving
Yeah.
it out. Well, throwing garbage out the window and on the side of the road and
Well,
there.
yes, but there's different circumstances. Not everyone's throwing it out the window. It could fall off a truck. I've seen that happen, so. But discretion will go a long way here.
I think I said anybody throwing a bag of garbage out the window. I want to see something happen to them. I understand. I understand.
I agree.
I understand something can fall off the truck. That's not.
Leon, you're always talking trash.
Okay. The first reading, we're going to get to revisit this in 2 weeks. So I have a motion by Clerk Wright, and it has been supported by Trustee Boynton. Clerk Wright, would you please call the roll?
You're
on.
muted.
Yes for me. Treasurer Bud,
Yes.
Trustee Boynton, Trustee Frazier. I'll come back to you. Trustee Frazier,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Boynton,
Yep.
Supervisor,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. This next item does not require any motions because we're not voting on anything today. But we are putting together okay. Over the last 4 years, I have had calls on a monthly basis from numerous residents in Haggerty Sub. Haggerty Sub is what we call it. It's presidential state. It's got a lot of other names, but it's 711 homes in Haggerty Road and I-94. Before I get to Matt, I'm going to go through a short dog and pony here. I have heard stories from 25 years ago of how people could not walk the sidewalks back then because they were so destroyed. They are still destroyed. They have numerous problems there. They don't have a homeowners association. What they do have is a beautiful club that suddenly has been resurrecting over the last 2 or 3 years. And as a percentage of home price, it has gone up higher than any other homes in our community. I mean, you could buy them for $70,000 and $80,000, and I believe they're going for $150,000, $160,000 now. That's what at least I've been told. So the point of the matter is they've taken care of their community. They want to keep it up. They've asked about a sidewalk replacement program. Sidewalk replacement programs are generally overseen at the cost of the general fund, but the actual sidewalk replacement is overseen by the homeowner themselves. We're going to, Mr. Best is going to outline a couple of different kinds of programs, what they mean, how they work, in hopes that we could put together a program to present to Haggerty and see if they want it. So Director Best, could you begin?
Yes, thank you, board, for the opportunity to talk about this. The Public Services Department was asked to look into the possibility of a sidewalk replacement program for the township. Over the last 6 months, our department has collected information. We've spoken to concrete contractors who do this type of work, and we've talked with consultants, as well as reviewed other local community sidewalk replacement programs. From this effort, this department has developed the following information for the Board of Trustees to review. I'd like to share this. And will it work?
It's up there.
All right. Why a sidewalk replacement program? Sidewalk replacement programs are an effective means to correct existing sidewalk defects. They include age deterioration, cracking, disintegration, root lifting, settling, and damage from construction. Repair and replacement of these defects is imperative to provide safe pedestrian travel. The townships, even though we don't own any roads or the sidewalks, have some liability when it comes to sidewalk maintenance. In 1990, there was a slip and fall in the Redford Township, where the person who slipped and fell sued the township and said, you're responsible. The Supreme Court at that time said, no, you're not. But then in 1996 in Canton Township, there was another Supreme Court case where there was another slip and fall, and the Redford slip and fall and the Canton Township slip and fall was put into one big case. And what happened was the Supreme Court found that even though townships do not own the sidewalks, they have a responsibility for the safe travel on those sidewalks by their residents. And so because the townships have the responsibility to direct residents to keep those sidewalks safe for pedestrian travel, the Michigan Supreme Court found that 50% of the liability of the damage done by this non-maintained sidewalk falls on townships, and the other 50% on the property owner. From that case, multiple local programs were developed over time. The department was asked to develop 2 sidewalk replacement program frameworks, one with the hiring of an outside firm to run the program, and a second utilizing in-house staff. Staff, with help from its consultant Fishbeck and others, have developed these program frameworks using sidewalk contractors, consultants, and based on other community programs. The estimated cost outlined represent industry standards and prices solicited from local contractors. So we took a survey of what costs would be for programs for these items, and looked across the region and found out what sidewalk replacement costs to administer these programs, put the sidewalk in, test this concrete, survey to make sure sidewalks are safe and what needs to be repaired. And we've come up with basic costs for these items. Then we took the liberty of creating a pilot program to give you an example of what a program would look like. And we base that program off Van Buren Estates, also known as Haggerty Sub. Van Buren Estate, the Haggerty Sub, has homes in the price range of 150 to 165. And the subdivisions were built in 1970 through 1974 and consist of 716 lots. Staff identified the project area to have over 214,800 linear feet of sidewalk. And those are the 4 subdivision phases. Within there, there's 214,800 linear feet of sidewalk. It was assumed through the industry standard that at least 40% of that sidewalk needs to be replaced. So for this pilot program, we make the assumption that 40% of these sidewalks would need to be replaced. And the cost, and I'll get into the cost in just a second. The detailed framework for this program using either a consultant or in-house staff can be found in the attachments that are in the board packet that I hope you got a chance to look over from Fishbeck. There's very detailed step-by-step instructions on how this program would work, going from the basic tasks to implement the sidewalk program, which includes an inventory, field assessment, markings of the sidewalk, field data collection, program development, where the sidewalk inspectors coalesce their information into CityWorks. And so we have an electronic database of what sidewalks need to be repaired, what sidewalks are in good condition. There's also data analysis, which would allow engineers to quickly identify the areas of concern and create plans and specs to get those projects off the ground for repair. The homeowner, the potential for a homeowner sidewalk repair grant program for property owners with low to moderate income property owners who are faced with costly sidewalk repairs. This could be done through CDBG or a potential 50-50 split if the board so chose. An enforcement program, which would hopefully not need to be used. And the reviewing and revising of township ordinances. The first step of this program, if you decided to move forward with this pilot, would be to look at the township ordinances and to make sure that they clearly reflect the Supreme Court's position and the common position that the sidewalk is the property of the adjacent property owners, and the maintenance of such is their responsibility. The townships is liable for making sure, under the state Supreme Court decision, that the homeowners maintain their sidewalks in front of their homes. And so the ordinance needs to reflect that in order for this program to move forward. The program is made up of 3 components. The first, planning and design. The second, construction. And the third is double checking the work for warranty so that a year later, they're going back and making sure that the sidewalk that was put in properly, correctly, and is still in good condition under the warranty. Not only does this pilot program look at the first year, but also that second year in that warranty program. So in this pilot program, there are 716 lots. And what would happen, whether you used an in-house consultant or in-house staff or a consultant, is we would send out trained individuals to assess the sidewalk conditions. There would be markings made on the sidewalks and notations made in CityWorks about each slab and its condition, whether it is good or needs to be replaced. There would also be designations, as you see in this picture, where the manhole cover is marked in red and the other slabs that need to be replaced are marked in green. The red marking would mean that the water and sewer department has some work to do on those slabs due to the presence of water and sewer infrastructure. So these markings would then be put into CityWorks, and a development of the sidewalks that need to be replaced. An inventory would be developed. That inventory would be developed into a plan. That plan would be broken down for each individual property owner through CityWorks, and then those property owners would be notified that the sidewalks need to be replaced. Before I get into how that process will work very briefly, I just want to state that the training for that could be done, the training for who can do sidewalk assessments. Of course, if you have consultants, they're already trained, but if you use in-house staff, you would have to train our staff to do that work, whether it's part-timers, full-timers, or a different group of people that you hire in to do this work. They would still be trained by a professional that does this work. At this point in the process, as the homeowner is notified, they would be given the option to replace their own sidewalk with a different contractor, or go with the township's assessment and contractor, where you would most likely get a cheaper price because we're doing the project in bulk. So as a contractor moves into the subdivision, they would get a better price on one flag of sidewalk than just hiring a separate contractor to do their own stretch of sidewalk. In the township's proposal for the pilot, 2,100 or 214,000 linear feet of sidewalk, or square feet of sidewalk, is a lot of sidewalk, and you get a better price than if you just did 5 slabs in front of your house. The cost of that is higher, but the option is still there. Once the homeowner identifies that they want to use their own program, or use their own contractor, or the township's program, if they decide to use the township program, they would be added into the program to be replaced, and then it would be scheduled, bid out, and the repairs would be made. If they decided to do it on their own, they'd have 60 days. The typical time is, and we'd work out this time frame as we move, if you decided to go this route in the future, we'd work out a time frame that would be appropriate for them to complete the sidewalk replacement on their own, and then we would verify that with an inspection. So if the township program is handling let's assume that 40% of the sidewalks need to be replaced in Haggerty subdivision or Van Buren Estates. That would mean that 214,800 square feet of sidewalk would have to be looked at. And 40% of that would be repair, would be what we target for repair. At $8 a square foot, which is the price that's out there, it would come up to about $700,000 estimated construction costs just for the installation of the sidewalk. That does not include, and I apologize for that one being offset, that does not include the other costs that the program incurs in order to make sure that the sidewalks are installed properly. There's a significant list of project administration duties that are done either by the consultant or in-house staff, such as of a cost of $78,000, such as coordinating the public surveys, developing the resources for the township's public website, public outreach and informational meetings, developing the program and resident communication letters, handling the 719 phone calls you'll inevitably get from the residents saying, why is that sidewalk being replaced and that one isn't? The bidding, the contractor awards, project closeouts, managing the inspection, managing the data, and managing the permits and program repayment projects. The construction contingency is 20%, and that's common for all projects of 140,000. There's a design fee. This design fee includes the field assessment of the sidewalk. So that pays for the staff to go out and assess each sidewalk, make a marking, and collect that data into CityWorks. It also covers the cost of the designing of the sidewalk for the log. It's what's called a log job. So basically you have a sheet that talks about standard installation of sidewalk based on different conditions. And each slab would be identified as one of those types of installations. So you wouldn't have to do detailed site plans that we would do for other projects. So this would be a quicker and economical way for us to do the design of these sidewalks. The construction contract administration is to have someone on site when the sidewalk contractor is putting in the sidewalks to make sure they're doing it right. There's a small fee for materials and density testings to make sure that the sidewalk concrete that's put in doesn't break down over time due to improper vibration, improper mixing, or being in the concrete truck too long. And a small administration fee to make sure that we can recoup the costs of the accounting, collections, the payments, and the CityWorks administration for this project. When it's all said and told, the estimated cost of doing in a single year doing the project with the consultant-led program is about $1.128 million. If you decided to go with an in-house program, there is a savings of approximately $95,000 from that estimated project cost of $1.128 million. And this is the cash savings. This is achieved by moving the project administration responsibilities and sidewalk field condition assessments in-house rather than consultant driven. While the savings is significant, there is still a cost. The time the in-house staff would need to spend on project administration and the tasks for that are outlined on page 9 of the Fishbeck memo could potentially take away from current work efforts. To perform the sidewalk field condition assessments, current staff would be potentially pulled away from their core duties, or new staff would have to be hired, trained, and managed daily. Under the contract-driven program, the cost, if we do this project over 1 year, it's approximately $1.12 million. An in-house project would be approximately $1.025 million. There is the potential to break this project up for this subdivision into 4 projects based on the 4 phases of the subdivision. If that's the case, you could break up the project into 4 years at a cost of approximately $500,000 for a consultant-led effort and about $400,000 for an in-house effort. Please note that these costs are estimates and through the best guesses, the best data that's collected from our survey of current costs around the region. Also wanted you to note that by breaking up into 4 projects, it does increase the overall cost of the project because some of the costs are fixed per the project happening each year. And that's why they go up. There are some pros to the contractor managed led program. Staff is as needed and there's no long-term legacy costs. 2, there's no initial capital outlay for a contract-driven program because the contractor brings those materials and trucks and what they need to the project. There's no training program required. Their staff is already on board. Contractor can adjust staffing levels based on what's the yearly project. So if you would be able to have 5 field assessors one year and 2 field assessors the next year, so the program could go up and down based on need. And with the contractor managed program, there's an opportunity to train township staff. In this example, using Fishbeck staff to perform the assessments and inspections would provide initial project consistency and train our staff so the future we would do it the same way. The con for that, higher initial cost. And initially there's a higher cost. It's just the math of it. Well, the township managed program, as we've already said, we can save money by making a long-term commitment to a sidewalk replacement program by assigning duties to the staff. Existing DPW staff may be available to perform field condition assessments and markups using existing township tablets, CityWorks, and GIS. These tasks may be able to be performed during the idle periods of their work schedule. Vehicles, equipment, and training can be adjusted to perform these services. Program and project accounting can be done through existing township staff. Ordinance enforcement duties, if people do not comply to the project, the sidewalk maintenance ordinance, can be done through our ordinance officers. And existing DPS staff can utilize our existing relationship with Mitten and BidNet for project advertising and bid management. There are some cons. We've already talked about how the administrative duties would have to be assigned to an existing staff member. There would be additional accounting and payment responsibilities assigned to staff. And a part-time or potentially even a full-time employee would be needed during the first several years until the program over time has stability and continuity. There may, depending on the vehicle availability and need, there may be capital outlay to purchase a vehicle, equip it with the proper equipment necessary to perform the condition assessment phase all the way through the construction phase. And staff would have to be trained in order to perform the field condition assessments to have consistent application of sidewalk replacement across the project area. So there are some questions that need to be answered and discussed and outlined. I've already talked about the first one, staff time, but overall cost is the next question that needs to be answered. While property owners would be paying for the replacement, the township would have to establish a budget for year 1 to cover the $1.12 million. And however that money is decided to be repaid back by the property owners, that money would still be outlaid for that year and would come back as people repay for their sidewalk replacement. This amount, if you wanted to do a year 2, you may have to outlay an additional amount in a similar size if you decided to do a second subdivision. So it would take time to recoup those costs over time. Third, for the pilot program, the average cost per property owner based on the 40% replacement industry standard is $1,600 per homeowner.
Oh,
That cost, these are costs that are incurred by the township. These are costs that are incurred by the township for the project that would have to be recouped by the private property owner for the replacement of the sidewalk. There are some costs that may not be able to be billed to the property owners under this program In particular, for example, if property owners replace the sidewalk on their own, it is difficult to recoup the costs of the assessment and overhead that's for the program. Finally, the cost. The Haggerty subdivision sidewalk program, as we talked, is about 1.2 million run through the contractor. It can be spread out over 4 years, but as I said, it costs more. If you spread it out, the project out over 2 years or 4 years, with a consultant, it puts the total cost at about just shy of $2 million. And if you do it in-house over 4 years, the total project costs about 1.5 million. These costs are estimates, as I keep saying, based on industry standards. And one thing I wanted to make clear before we move forward from this point is that it does not include driveway approaches, driveway sidewalk slabs, or sprinkler repair. The driveway approaches are owned by the property owners, and Wayne County maintains some of those, not all of them. And that's a really gray area who replaces those. And I got 5 different answers when I asked 5 different people, as well as if we damage sprinklers or tiles in the project, those costs may be added on. At this point, there's the last thing I wanted to discuss is payback, how residents pay that back. In most programs, those payments are placed on the they're basically invoiced for those amounts each year. So under the majority of the programs, they invoice the cost of the sidewalk replacement to the homeowner, and the homeowner has a choice of paying that or having it put onto their tax bill. There are other communities, not as frequent, who finance the program over time. The only drawback to that is you have a longer time to recoup the cost of the initial outlay of capital. And with that, I'd be happy to answer all your questions regarding sidewalk replacement program.
Okay, we'll start out with Trustee Frazier. Trustee Frazier, you're on mute.
You're still on mute.
Okay. I just wondered how long a time the resident would have to pay it back.
I can answer that.
Okay.
We have money that we keep parked in accounts, bank accounts, which we do because we maintain fund balances. And we get about 3% on that money. So we could lend them the money. We would probably want to get our money back within 5 years. So 5 years is probably the maximum that we've ever lent money to anybody. It's not really difficult for us, because we are going to get that money from the Comerica Bank, or we might as well get it from the resident. We keep the numbers pretty low. So, okay. Anything else, Trustee Frazier, before I move on to Miller?
No, not at this time.
Trustee Miller.
So let me understand this. If a homeowner, say, just moved in, bought a house in there for 150,000, you said now they're going for, and the tree is doing damage to the sidewalk. They didn't plant the tree, but now they have to pay for the repairs, correct?
Yes.
We're going to kill the tree too.
Right.
I'm not sure whose responsible it is to take down the tree. Okay. First of all, $1,600. I assume that nobody in their right mind would want to spend $1,600 when they've been living with this for 25 years. I have called 7 people in Haggerty Stub thinking that I was going to get an uproar of anger. I got just the opposite of what I expected. They thought that was okay. So that is why I decided to come to you and say, listen, I don't know what you want to do, because I really don't know what to do here. But I'd like to present something to the owners, the Haggerty subdivision people, and say, here's what we can do and here's what we can't do. So I'm asking you, do you want me to go with the cheapest way, which means I got to hire more people? and take on more responsibility within this building, but we really are kind of tight on. All right, that's where I'm at.
So let me ask you this. So if it was something that we created, we put in there or whatever, and it caused sidewalk damage, they're still responsible, correct?
They are.
What do you mean? What do you mean by what?
So so if there's like a manhole cover or something, some type of curb issue,
Director Best.
If a water and sewer infrastructure is causing a problem with the adjacent slabs, those adjacent slabs will be paid for out of the water and sewer fund.
so it would come back on the homeowner.
Right.
Bill,
Those locations are.
can you shut the
limited.
door over there?
I can't hear you, Director Best. Hang on a minute.
Say again.
Go again.
Those locations are limited in scope, and there's actual engineering criteria for how to determine those. That is part of the training that the field staff get and identify. That's why we have 3 different colors for sidewalk. One is okay, the sidewalk's great. One is the sidewalk needs to be replaced, and one is Van Buren Township takes care of that sidewalk because it's our infrastructure.
All right, thank you.
All right, Trustee Fraser, you wanted to speak or? No. Okay, does anybody else want to speak? Because I can set you off, and I'm gonna wait for Treasurer Bud to sit down before I say this, because she's probably gonna be the first one to take off that microphone. There is an option. It's called a special assessment district. You could drop that thing right on top of Haggerty Sub, just like an LDFA. You could bond out the whole thing and say the heck with who gets it by the lot. We're fixing it all, and we're going to tax you equally by lot over 5 or 10 years, which would actually, you could probably do it over 10 years, which would drop that number down to probably $200 a year. But there are options here. I don't know how far you guys want me to go. Treasurer Bud, I know you got to have an opinion on that move.
Well, I was just thinking if we set up an SAD, a special assessment district, like we have with the roads when we help some of them, the thing is that you have to have at least 51% of the people signed up and say, okay, I'd go for it. So that would involve probably someone having to go out to canvass the neighborhood and make sure they had that kind of a response. It works, but there again, then the township picks up, of course, if we bonded for it, but we pick up the most of the cost for right off the bat, and people have got 5 years to pay it back. We put it on their taxes, and yes, so we do know we will get the money back, but we're gonna have to take 5 years to get it. And then in the meantime, you're moving on to other neighborhoods. And what are you gonna do with that to set it up? Because you can't go and do everything up front for everybody all the time.
If we have any other neighborhoods like this, in fact, that would be a good exercise for us to do. Are there any other neighborhoods like this? I don't think there are.
Well, it would have to be some of the older ones. I mean, yeah, I don't offhand know either. I don't know, Country Walk.
They don't have.
Well, yours, yeah, like Reggie, yours is you probably pay for your own, so we wouldn't have to worry about them. And I don't know about Westbrook down there on Savage Road. I think Matt wants to answer the question.
Yeah, thank you.
So the limitation for this type of program, under the way that we set up the pilot program and with the state Supreme Court ruling, is that it's sidewalks adjacent to county roads. There are a handful of subdivisions in our community that currently meet this requirement. The homeowners associations developments that are site condominiums do not meet this requirement. So subdivisions that have homeowner associations that are site condos would not be able to participate in this type of program.
Okay, somebody has noise on the background, so it makes it very difficult to hear. So shut your doors or whatever you have to do. Not you, Sherry. You're on mute. Not you.
Actually, the biggest piece we have where there's not sidewalks is Haggerty Sub, because most of our other things are all, say, condominiums where they've all got homeowners associations where they take care of their own.
For example, Charter Club, Mission Point, and there's one more. There's one more and it's escaping me.
Yeah.
You can do an SAD for the other ones because SADs are based off petition drives and the Board of Trustees decision whether to move forward. However, for the way we would write the ordinance and how the programs are set up in other communities, it would have to be public streets adjacent to sidewalk.
And I think you'll remember when we did the first SADs for roads, it became quite a problem. And we said we weren't going to handle that anymore. And so a couple of them, we said, okay, you got to handle it because it's yours. You go to the county, you set up the SAD. Well, they've got to be established for 5 years before they can do it independently. So, but we did run into that with one office of Belleville Road where we did not handle that for them. I mean, we put it on the taxes, but we didn't go out and do all the initial, let's get all the signatures and let's do all the original planning and everything else by putting all of our money up front.
All right.
Through the chair.
Kevin Merton, trustee.
Yeah, my problem with the special assessment district is what about the homeowner that sidewalk is fine and doesn't need any work? Why should he have to pay for sidewalk replacement if the sidewalk is fine? That's my problem with that. You were talking about the trees earlier. This is a horrible connection and you were breaking up and stuff, but that's an old shady sub with some well-established trees, and it's a lot of sidewalks. I've walked through that sub several times. A lot of those sidewalks are, heaved up by trees or whatever, and yeah, you're gonna have to cut the tree roots to, to grade the sidewalks, and those trees are gonna die at some point, and then the homeowners is responsible for taking that tree down on the curtilage. I mean, it's their tree, so you run into problems with that. A lot of those sidewalks are pushed up by trees, a lot of them. So that's something to keep in mind also, as far as homeowners costs and, what it's going to cost them.
Again, if I didn't get so many complaints from the neighborhood about these sidewalks, you wouldn't be seeing this. Trustee Frazier, you're on mute.
So are there other communities that have gone through this that you could use as examples?
I don't think I've ever seen one as bad as this, but and with the trees, but every community out there has done this. Would that be a safe bet, Mr. Best, Director?
That's correct. There are multiple programs that we looked at that have addressed this very similarly. This program is a hybrid of 4 or 5 different approaches, taking the best and learned lessons from those, as well as the engineering experience of the consultant, as well as talking with other community people who manage those sidewalk programs. Going to Canton Township and looking at how they handle Glengarry subdivision, their sidewalk was and roads were a mess. And when their road network, when they were redoing their roads with the local area road network money that the county provided under the road initiative, they actually had those same people do the sidewalks at the same time through their program and saved a ton of money. But their program is very similar to this. They had sidewalks that were upheaving. They don't have the age of trees, but they had a lot of damage and cracking sidewalk. And so the scale is about the same, but the types of repairs were different. And their costs ended up being lower than the industry average because they did all 4 or all 5 phases. 5 phases? I think it's 5 phases of Glengarry sub at the same time in one bid.
So they probably, through the chair.
Yes.
So they probably got a better price because they did everything together.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess the question becomes, what do you want me to do, if anything, board?
Hmm.
We could revisit it next week. But you know, unfortunately, they don't have a homeowners association, which is just driving me crazy that they don't have one. So I don't know how, I don't have any leadership to get in touch with. All I have is the friends and family system of calling the people I know, which is not exactly fair or scientific. I don't know what to do here.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I think we should, I mean, Director Best is our director on this, and he's our lead guy. So I think we should take whatever he recommends as being, you know, most cost effective and will get the job done for the residents. I mean, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you, Director Best, but I mean, you're out there, you know what kind of complaints you get, you know the condition more than, you know, some of us do. So I'm willing to take your recommendation.
Okay. All right, then here's, I'm gonna put forward a proposal to you. I would propose that we take the $1.1 million cost, and we will get a flyer together and we'll just put it out there into the Haggerty sub mailboxes and say, if you guys want help, this is what we're recommending. And we'll say we can do it over 5 years, or Treasurer Bud, or people of Haggerty sub by about 51% of the homeowner lots can form a special assessment district and move it out to over 10 years as a bond.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
Way long.
And
may not be here.
And you,
We won't have it anyway.
I know, but you know, and this goes along with what Kevin Martin said, because when we did one of our road special assessments, we didn't do it by frontage, we did it by lot. So the person that sat there with 300 foot got the same price as the person that sat there with a 50 foot. There was a lot of problems with that whole situation. And I still cringe sometimes for all the phone calls we caught, but they set it up that way, not really realizing what that was going to mean. So to what Kevin said, it's the same thing. What about the person that maybe has replaced some of theirs? Then they don't have anything, but they're going to get hit with that special assessment because you can't knock it out. If you do the area, the whole thing gets done. I wish I knew the correct answer, but I don't know what, I don't either, but I do know that I walked the subdivision at Haggerty and I ended up on my face one time because I wasn't watching. And yeah, it is very dangerous to walk on those streets in there. It is. It's a problem.
Somebody step up and give me an answer. Who's next?
Well, Supervisor, if I could.
Yes, other than Boynton.
So this project of this magnitude, is it not my turn yet?
I think it is. I didn't see it.
Okay, let me start again. You know, this is a huge project with great magnitude. We need to hear back from the residents. I'm not comfortable on making a decision tonight. I'd like to talk more with others about this. And maybe at our next meeting, then we can make a decision, but let's think this through. It's not a big hurry where this has to be voted on tonight. And then we'll come back, you know, at our next board meeting.
Well, we have to do, okay, here's what I need to know. What am I going to tell the people of Haggerty sub?
May I?
Well, I think we could put out a notice, right? Like you said.
Tell them what?
May I?
Okay, trustee.
Well,
Boyd- Okay,
wait
just
a minute.
we don't have a
What would you
program.
tell anybody in this circumstance, Kevin?
I tell them, here's a program that the board will allow you to do. But I don't have that program yet until you tell me what the program is, and then I can tell Haggerty, this is
Well,
what
okay,
my board will let me do.
okay, that's a process. That's, okay, fine.
Okay. All right.
I think we should listen to trustee Boynton.
Yeah, trustee Boynton.
What I was going to say was that it is very complex, and it's a situation where you really may not, well, it's going to be hard to have everyone do the same thing across the board, so to speak. I think the best way to go at this is just a thought, is that just as Trustee Miller said, we hear from the residents throughout here in the States, or Haggerty Sub, whichever you want to call it. But at the same time, try to target certain homeowners in areas where the sidewalk is in question. Somewhere they may have been raised by roots, somewhere the sidewalk surface has deteriorated over time. In other words, time has been the biggest enemy of it. And also a couple of homeowners where there's nothing wrong with the sidewalk. And also a few homeowners where there's nothing that appears to be wrong with the sidewalk, but it may, because everyone knows if you have a tree on your property near a sidewalk, at some point or another while you're living there, that tree is going to lift that sidewalk. There's no question about it. I just went through that here in Country Walk just last year. It's going to happen. So I'm thinking that's what we need to do. You're going to have to get certain folks from certain areas where the sidewalk is in certain conditions and hear from what they have to say. And at the same time, give them the proposal for the 1.128 million, and also the float out there the idea of a SAD, but don't give them any numbers or anything. Just put it out that this is another option, but also put in the caveat that we're not favorable towards this option.
In one.
This sounds like something that you're going to have to create. You're going to have to create a vehicle to try and address as many areas as you can. You know, like Matt said, there's 40% of the sidewalk out there that has to be repaired or replaced. Is that correct, Matt?
That's the industry standard. That's the number that we're using to give us an estimate. That's correct.
I would doubt it's more there.
Okay, but Supervisor, you're saying that it's more than 40% that needs to be repaired or replaced.
Should be. They're pretty bad there.
Okay, so we're going to have to do some work. That's all it is to it. And that's also what you tell the residents. We're going to have to do something. Something has to be done. So aside from all the arguments as far as mine is fine, his isn't, this is good, that's not, you know, we're not going to break it down like that, but we need to take and put together something that fits this area and pretty much go for it after that. I know that's difficult. I know that sounds hard, but we're going to have to put a little bit of work into this. And, you know, to show that I'm just not a whole bunch of talk, I will offer my services as much as I possibly can into this effort as well. You know, I go along with Trustee Frazier. I think Matt Best is probably one of the best persons that we have on staff that can handle this. And but then too, I'm not going to lay everything on Matt. You know, I'll put that out there for you, Supervisor, as well as my own services with whatever it is that I can do. And I'm going to shut up now.
Through the chair, the only thing I would say is if you set up an area for an SAD, you can't leave anybody out. So that's going to be the hardest thing with having an SAD. If there are some people who have corrected their sidewalks, because maybe they've planted a tree and at the end of 5 years, they're going to be in the same way. But I would suggest once we do get it fixed, then we go in periodically and actually tell the resident, okay, you got to replace this and let them handle it, because then it won't be as big a problem. But to bond it and set up an SAD, you can't leave anybody out.
Okay,
So-
let me. Okay, are you okay?
I'm done.
Okay, so I have 3 different proposals for.
Through the chair.
Trustee Martin. Trustee Martin, you're froze again. Trustee Martin. From the beginning.
I think okay. I think we're missing the bigger picture here, and that since the Michigan Supreme Court has deemed municipalities 50% liable in any injury sustained from these broken sidewalks, I think that it's really not in the residents' hands, it's in our hands because of the liability factor. I am totally against a SAD, and I think the engineer managed program probably would be the best. But first and foremost is the township's liability, and we have to protect ourselves. And I think that should be our paramount force and when we make this decision, is what we do. As far as the homeowners, yeah, you're going to get the input, but the bottom line is we have 50% liability. And so we have to protect our interests.
Well, that's why I said it the way that I said it, which was, you know, and I agree with you, Trustee Martin. You know, we have 50% liability on this. That's why I said you expressed to the homeowners, something's going to be done. Something has to be done. I just offered a few other softer points in there, but something's going to be done. Something is going to happen.
Okay, so we have 3 different payment schedules, payment methods. We have the Canton system, which basically says you just did $1,600 worth of damage. Here's your $1,600 bill, due now. We have the secondary system, which is the way we generally do things here. We lend from our cash reserves to the residents to get the work done and have them pay back over a maximum of 5 years. So that's the second system. Is that system okay for this one, or are you going to allow me to extend any farther out than 5 years? Because 5 years is the farthest out we extended on anything else. That's the next question. Treasurer Bud, you are muted.
I hear you.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but any of them that we have lent the money has been an SAD.
I know, this is a lot of money.
Right. It's always been on an SAD, so it could be put on the taxes. I think if we decided to lend them the money, we'd have to make sure we had legal counsel that we could put it on their taxes. And right now, I think, I could be wrong, but I think the only avenue is to have the SAD, or we're going to have to figure out some way else if we're going to lend them the money, because we wouldn't have any way to collect if we couldn't put it on the taxes.
Oh, I thought we could. Trustee, Director Best.
Through the chair, that's the township's enabling and enforcing ordinance for this sidewalk program would be developed to allow that type of activity to happen.
Okay.
We would have to make sure our current ordinance does not allow us to do that. It does say that
Right.
the owner is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk, but it doesn't give the enabling action to allow the treasurer to put it onto the tax roll. That's something that we can do through the first steps of a program. One other thing I'll add is that there will have to be an outlay of township funds in order to pay the project up front.
Right.
And there could be up to a year where you're waiting for that money to be recouped under the direct tax and invoicing program. So
That's not a problem here.
one way or another, you'd still be You still have to outlay money up front to make the program go. And most communities that we looked at, except for one, and I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, invoice their people and give them an opportunity to pay it or put it on their taxes. So,
Through the chair.
Clerk Wright?
Yes, in this instance, I agree with Trustee Martin and partially Trustee Boyne, because I agree with Trustee Martin. We do have 50% liability here, so we have to do something. I think we can work with our treasurer and come up with some type of payment plan, because putting that kind of liability on someone at one-time payment is going to create a burden. Reason I said, Trustee Boyne, your plan, what you were saying, this is a public meeting, and it's on the agenda. I'm pretty sure some people are listening. It's out in the airwaves, or will be on YouTube here soon. So it's not hidden. I mean, they're going to hear this discussion one way or the other. So, and I think it's our responsibility as a board. We get paid to do this, is to bring this forward and let the people tell us how they want to, whether they want to pay for it or not. But it sounds like from the supervisors, they want this to happen, or some people do. Majority
Some people do, yes.
So in order for this to happen with the quantity of homes we have in Haggerty Sub, I don't see no other way but this. Without
people that don't want this to happen also. Okay, so at this point in time, then I'm going to assume that I've heard you that we don't want to do it. We don't want to do something that bills everybody the same. We do want to lend them the money if they so choose, up to 5 years. And we do want to present the program to Haggerty Sub and let them decide as a collective. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. We have some comments, and I'm sure they're about this. So why don't we go to the comments now, and maybe we can answer some questions. Director? Our moderator?
Sure,
Oh, yeah, no problem.
I've got them up if you want me to do it, Ryan.
Sure, if you would like.
So Mark has commented he lives in the subdivision and says to all of you, Trustee Martin is correct. Most all of the sidewalks are heaved due to large trees planted too close to the sidewalk. When I inquired with Wayne County about cutting down my tree, I was told no, capital N-O, unless it was dead and they would come out, assess the condition of the tree. So if the roots are not removed, we would be wasting money on fixing the sidewalks. But they are an extremely dangerous trip hazard and force residents and children to walk into the street, which is also dangerous. What about the corners of the sidewalks that are not handicap accessible? I can place this flyer at Haggerty Sub Facebook page as well. Thank you for addressing this long-standing issue. Tell the residents you are working on the best possible solution for all involved, and this decision cannot be made hastily because of the expense.
Okay. Get his number, because if he's got the social media for that HOA.
That sounds like the best response I've ever heard.
Supervisor, I want to just touch on something that Mark said to make sure that we're all on the same page. When he says the corners of the sidewalks are not handicap accessible, that the ramp, the handicap ramps and the handicap, the rubber that they put down with the texture, those costs are not in this assessment, because that is not something that we can assess a cost to in the field. We don't
need to do it.
Yeah, well, technically there's not a requirement to do it. However, we can't assess whether it's necessary or not until we go out in the field. If there is a need to replace those slabs, then that cost it gets reduced. So if you already have to replace it, it's cheaper to do it when it needs to be replaced than it is just to take a good piece of sidewalk and replace it. So that's why we did not delve into that as part of this project.
Supervisor,
Yes.
I thought all our sidewalks have to be accessible to all our residents. I mean, Director Best said that
Grandfather.
maybe grandfather? That doesn't take away our responsibility to the residents that live here.
I agree.
Well, okay, so, but you're basically telling those people that live in those corner homes that they now have to pay for ADA ramps.
Well, why wouldn't we pay for them?
Yeah, why wouldn't we split the cost or something?
We don't own them. The county actually owns them. If anybody owns them, I think.
Well, who owns them?
I'm not sure. The county, I think.
The
I'm
approach,
sure yeah.
Here in Country Walk, we own them.
Pardon?
Different.
Here in Country Walk, we own them. We're one of those communities that Matt spoke of earlier. We're in a site condo. You know,
Right.
Totally different situation.
if you decide to move forward with the program and we're in the design phase and field assessment, we would figure out how many of those ramps are needed, what the cost would be, and we would give options. But it's not necessarily part of the project as it sits right now. It's something that we'll have notes on and will be field assessed. Absolutely.
I think maybe it should be, through the chair. I think maybe it should be part of the cost, not,
We can add.
not an afterthought.
I just don't know who you're gonna expect to pay for it.
Well, who owns them?
Wayne County, and they're not going
Well,
to.
then how could we replace them if they're owned by Wayne County? Can't we?
Because
That's another
the ordinance
problem.
states that it is the responsibility of the homeowner, the owner of the lot, to maintain.
To maintain or to replace?
Both.
Through the chair, let me do a little more digging, and I can bring that back to the next meeting with a definite answer for you.
That
Okay.
would be helpful.
Kevin, you do know it. Andover Farm is owned by Wayne County, but we wait on Wayne County, nothing to happen.
What's that?
I said Andover Farms are owned by Wayne County. There's public roads but if we wait on Wayne County to fix our sidewalks and streets, nothing happens. So
They've been waiting in Haggerty Sub for Wayne County since 1980. They're not coming.
that's what I'm saying.
No.
Exactly what I said. They're not gonna come. So I don't know why we are even talking about Wayne County.
Okay, do we have anybody else that wants to speak? Because that was kind of interesting. All right. Yeah. Okay, we will put something together. We will make it another discussion point at our next meeting. We will get something out to Mark and his friends through Facebook and the Haggerty Sub as best we can to try and get some feedback on this. We're not looking to go to war. We're not looking to force this upon them, but
Right.
we are trying to find a solution.
Hey, Kevin, why don't you ask Mark, would he be willing to be a liaison in there? I know him. He does a good job at that.
Yeah, he's a pretty good egg.
Is he still on the call?
I don't know.
He said yes.
Yes.
Said
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, everybody knows who Mark is. He's this is the Mark from baseball, right?
Right.
Yeah. Better be.
It is.
Baseball, Mark.
He said he will be glad to help.
Great. Okay. All right. I have nothing else to talk over on this. So should I move on?
Yep.
Yes.
We have no reports to talk about. We do have some public comment today, beginning with Clerk Wright.
Well, I guess it's just something what I said earlier with some of the panel that was on. I would like to see the board, this board of trustees, put some type of letter together, it's all signed and sent to our rep and state senator, asking them to put something in place to work on some type of some type of law to put into in place in regards to ethnic intimidation. I don't know if anyone saw the news article or the news this afternoon or what's been played for the last week or so. I think it was East Point where a Ku Klux Klan flag was put in the window facing an African American family house. It was deemed today that they didn't have enough evidence to act on that and deem that ethnic intimidation. For someone like me, and I guess most of you guys know, I grew up in Mississippi in Jim Crow era, which I had endured a lot of these issues regarding racism, especially with Ku Klux Klan. And that is something that's just really irks me when I hear that someone in 2021 does something like that and there's nothing on the books that can be done about it. It needs to be changed. It needs to be, if it's not on the books, if it can't be done, according to the what I heard this evening, is because the laws are not stern enough, where they need to change. And I hope if anyone listening to me, they will call and also do the same. These laws need to be changed. In 2021, if you can do that type of stuff and cause that kind of issue, and you can't call that ethnic intimidation, then we're in a lot of trouble. So I would like to see the board, I would like to see us act and maybe be the first one to do something. Only thing we can do is request, and that's what we're here for, to get in the ear of our representative, our senators, and tell them they need to do something in regards to this, because this stuff, it needs to be stamped out. If we're going to move forward as a country, as a race, as a community, this stuff got to stop.
Great.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, nobody's keeps a KKK flag around and flags it right at their black neighbor without having one single purpose in mind, and that's to intimidate your neighbor. That's pretty foolish to even think. I'm all for freedom of speech, and quite frankly, it almost sounds like a freedom of speech, but the more you hear this, the more you think it's not freedom of speech. That guy was just meant to intimidate his neighbor.
Exactly.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything they want to speak about?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir. Trustee Martin.
I just want to take a little poll. Did anybody have any trouble in the meeting with connection and losing connection? And
I did earlier.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you guys noticed. I was gone for about
You were
15 minutes.
I had got kicked off a couple of times.
Again.
And I'm saying this to say that can we explore some type of other virtual meeting platform, Google Meets or something like that, that may be more reliable?
I have used the other platforms, and this is as good or better than all of them. I am using Blue Jeans at Mental Health. Is using the Microsoft Meets or whatever it's called, Team. They are all worse than this one. We pay
that's not saying a lot.
because this is actually the better of them.
Kevin, unfortunately,
that's unfortunate. This is the best. I've been on Zoom meetings all weekend and they've been horrible.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Kevin. According to MMRMA looked at a lot of different social media platforms, and when we was moving away, because they have to do a lot of meeting with their customers, and they deem this to be the best one. I think it has a lot. You have to make sure that you have a good a Wi-Fi connection, and
we don't.
Wi-Fi,
and we don't.
Connection is suspect.
What is it? Wi-Fi issue?
I put it on my iPad. Other than when I got shut out by somebody else last time, I've never had a problem. So I don't know what you folks are using, because my Wi-Fi in my house isn't strong enough, but I haven't had a problem with my iPad. And you all have those. Have you tried those?
Well, you're not a
I'm
buying.
using,
It also,
I'm using iPad.
it also has to deal with,
I'm using iPad too.
it also has to deal with what you have. Now, I agree with Kevin and I agree with Leon. Microsoft Teams, Blue Jeans, Google Meets. I have various groups that use those, and Zoom is the better, regardless of what you personally feel about it. Zoom is the better out of those, and it's the same thing with Michigan Association of Planners and also with the Michigan Township Association. I'm taking a class right now through MSU and Citizen Planner Network, and they had originally had it for Google Meets, and they switched it over to Zoom. They bumped everything back a week to put everything on Zoom. But then it also depends on what you have at home. Last year when my wife started using Zoom and well, the old Google Meets, but she uses primarily Zoom right now. The PC that we had at home, it was the wrong generation, and it had the wrong amount of RAM, and it had the wrong amount of hard drive capacity. So I went and bought actually 2 PCs to bring it up to speed. And that's what I'm on right now. I'm on my PC right now. And it's hardwired into the into my Wi-Fi router up on the wall. I got a wire that you can see that goes from there straight to the switch, and from the switch straight to the PC. And I have it like that for protection purposes. But it's a multiple of things. You know, if you're using your phone, you've got issues with your phone. You know, is it do you have the right operating system? Is it the right number? Is it, you know, up to snuff? If you
I'm on
use
this. I'm on this.
iPad or your Android, is it the right level on that? You know, and each one of those is its own platform as well. You know, some of you are using your phone, some of you are using your iPads, some are using your PCs, either at home or in your office, and all those are different platforms. So it's a whole lot of stuff. But getting in back with what Kevin said earlier, yeah, there are times when, you know, mine freezes up. You know, I get the shutter effect where I'm moving like this and everything else, you know, and then some days it's fine, just like tonight. I had a little bit of problem getting in, but you know, it's a whole lot of things. But like Kevin said, Supervisor McNamara said, Zoom is really the best thing out there, regardless of what we might think about it. Zoom is the best thing we got smoking right now.
In a few weeks, this will all be meeting again.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
said that a month ago.
I'm sorry, it came out today. She's not extending it. It's still March 31st. She
Wow.
said March 5th we could start. It would be an option for the township to meet. But we have until March, the end of March. So it's
Yeah.
gonna end here soon, folks.
Okay, so
It's not what I say, it's what the governor's posted today.
moderator, is there anybody out there?
We have no virtual hands or nothing else in the comments. No.
Oh, good. Trustee Miller, did I just step on you for looking up something on Facebook?
I don't know what you mean.
I guess, do you have something to say?
I already said it.
Okay, all right, maybe I thought that, never mind. Okay, so, all right, everybody is done?
Yep.
We're gonna move on then. We are now down to adjournment. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Don Boynton and Ms.
There's
Frazier.
the motion.
What's
Huh?
that?
Support.
Hearing
So moved.
no abstentions, we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Night,
Have a
everybody.
great week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.